Warning: this video contains spoilers from events that took place within the first issue of Algatras. If you haven't read it already, then do yourself a favor, pause this video and come back after you finish it. I've put a loading screen on your screen. You have just a few seconds. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Alrav from Quebec, Canada, the author and creator of Algatras the Protector / Algatras le Protector. And for today's video, as part 4 of the making of series of the first issue of Algatras, I'll be focusing on the character designs that were used as part of the first issue itself. To begin, here's a look at Algatras without his suit as seen in the event of the first issue. So, like I mentioned before, a lot of my inspiration source behind this world project itself as a whole came from old school Tatsunoko and Tokutatsu properties from Japan that inspired this world Algatras project. So, with Algatras himself, he was always intended to be a cross between an American anti-hero and a classic Japanese style superhero. So one of the main emphasis of his character design was his hair. I wanted them to be long but not too long and with a slight ondulation so it would appear like a grown-up, and I opted of course for the classic heroic style proportions and a rugged look to make him an anti-hero. So here is a look at Tessa herself. She was always intended to be the equivalent of a stand-in for a character such as, let's say, M from James Bond. In fact, the whole harem dynamic that is set around Algatras was built to be around a mixture of these Western archetypes that are seen in spy and espionage films and the sort of archetypes that we would see in manga and anime. So Tessa was the first one to be made and the easiest one to design, largely because she was opted for a middle-age approach, and so because of that I didn't have to worry too much about how she would look or her hair. She was intended to be more of a supporting figure that operates behind the scene, so a big portion of the appeal of the teamwork behind the scene. On the other hand, Vicky was the hardest character to actually draw and implement, not because of her character design, but because of her proportion. Younger characters are very frequent in manga and anime, but much less so in Western superhero comics, so I had to improvise and mess around a lot with proportions to get the right result. As for her character, there's a lot of influence, so she's sort of a mix. She's got a little bit of Q from James Bond in her. A lot of my inspirations for her came from my very first exposure to anime when I was a kid, so I do remember shows such as Pokemon and Digimon, as well as Cardcaptor Sakura, so and I added a touch of the engraved nerd in here as well, so I've sort of mixed it all together to create this particular character. So here is a look at Algatras in his protector suit. One of the inspiration behind it, there's hockey in it. One thing that can be said, I'm not particularly much of a sports fan myself, but hockey is very popular in my home place in Quebec, Canada. It also provided some good inspiration since it is designed with a lot of mobility in mind and armor, so that's something I wanted to convey with the protector suit. There's also a bunch of different sources of inspirations from my childhood involved as well, so the idea of shooting pucks and flying around, I remember that was inspired by the Jingle All the Bells movie with the Turbo Man character in it, and I sort of added the hockey motif on top of it and built on it until I could get an ideal power set and character design. Now here is a look at the girl in her protector suit. So again, like I mentioned, There were some deleted scenes and materials about her character that simply didn't make it in the finished product, which is why her appearance was so short. So in her case, most of it was resolved around her suit itself, which was intended to be a sort of a gender swap take on Algatras' own protector suit, but I did add some element to suggest a more legendary style status, such as the cape and some higher boots and armor than Algatras himself. So here are the police bots. So the idea behind them, it was part of a series of experiments. I wanted to make more type of avatars for Zextron, but breaking up the Trinity mode that I set up with the Grunt, the Scout and the Commander was very tough, so that's why for the fourth one I opted for a simple comedic relief that basically turned into an automated surveillance force of sort. So it is again a parody satire of cyberpunk dystopia of sorts. So these characters are not meant to be taken very seriously. They are just there in the background, but if they do show up, they might interfere with the plot in various comedic elements to the fighting itself. So it will be fun to look at how they will reappear in future albums. Now here is the Zextron Grunts, which were the first of the Zextron avatars to be designed. One thing that I wanted to emphasize on with these avatars was a representation of first-person shooter. So that's why they were designed with bulky, heavy bodies in mind, as well as an emphasis on firepower. The Zextron Scouts were the second unit I designed, and these ones are intended to represent third-person games such as shooting games or fighting games of sort, with an emphasis on their speed and reflexes. So one thing for sure is that while Grunts I could eventually use the classic brute body mode, with Zextron Scout I had to create my own mechanical monstrosities from scratch, with an emphasis on huge legs. Here is a look at the Zextron Commander, the last of the Zextron avatars. One emphasis on the character design itself. It has human proportions for its body, but it also has a unique shape for the head, as well as the shoulder pad. So there's a bit of influence from various sources. So here is a look at the Bio-Goliath that was used in the first issue itself. Minor difference aside, the reason for the name of Gasfuinar Kosakegoku, it's a weird name in sort, it is classified. On a final note, here's a look at Megalodon itself. That's the giant robot that Algatras used very briefly in the first issue. The idea behind this one, I think a lot of the influence can be based on the Japanese version of Spider-Man from Toei that implemented a giant robot. So I kind of like the idea of one that would fly before it lands. So giant robots were appealing to me in that sense, so that's why I use it in the way that it was. And that's it for part 4 of the making of series of the first issue of Algatras. With that being said, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the commentary section below. As always, look forward to all the Algatras the Protector / Algatras le Protector stuff on my Substack. The links are available as always in the description below or on my channel's page. With that being said, thanks for watching and we'll see one another very soon. Enjoy the reading.